What's up, buds? It's your bud Bolt with another hockey video, and today we're taping a stick. So this stick I've been using for a couple of years now. This was my big purchase. I've never really had an expensive stick before, so I went out and spent like 80 bucks to get myself away from the wood because I deserved it. So today we're going to talk about taping it. Now the first thing you're going to have to do, if you have a stick that you've used before, you've had someone else taping, maybe your parents been taping it, whatever, you bought it used, you need to get tape off the blade. You might need scissors to do that, so if you do, go ahead, just get that tape off the blade and do your best to not damage it. So if that's done, if you've got all the tape off the blade or you bought a new stick, you're going to have to give yourself one of these, a butt end. Now they do sell plastic ones you can buy, they're fairly cheap. If that's your prerogative, go ahead, you just stick it on the end and you tape down it. But this guy, I just made it out of tape. I just wound tape around the very top of the shaft of my stick a bunch of times until I got a thick enough butt end. Now the butt end is actually pretty important, and it has a few functions. The first is that you need to make this big enough so that it does not fit in the little slots of the cage. So you should be able to grab your helmet in the cage and try and poke this through, and it shouldn't come through. And that's just so when you're skating along, someone's behind you, you turn around or something, this doesn't just go right through their cage and you end up, you know, sticking someone in the eye with it. So just make sure it's big enough to do that. Secondly, it's so that you can pick your stick up off the ice if you lose it. You'll notice goalies have like big honking butt ends on their sticks, and that's because their blockers need a whole lot more clearance between the shaft of the stick and the ice, so the butt end is bigger so they can actually grab it with their blockers. It's pretty funny when you watch somebody with a very tiny butt end try and grab their stick off the ice, because it just keeps moving. It's like trying to pick up a coin on a table. So you don't need it to be that big. Player gloves are fairly efficient at grabbing things. They don't need a whole lot of clearance. So as long as you're making it big enough to not fit in the helmet, you should be able to grab this. So the next function that it has is it gives you something to grip. So you should be putting your butt end right in the middle of your gloved hand when you're playing, so you grip that. Goalies, the big ones also, they poke check, which is where they shoot their stick out of their hand, and they only have one hand on the stick. So the butt end catches it so they don't lose their stick. So when we're taping the butt end, it's very simple. Now I'm going to give this guy a refresher because it's kind of been on there a few years, and it gets sticky. Some people like that. I don't. I like a nice smooth butt end. So we're just going to go ahead and tape this up. So if you don't already have a butt end, this process is going to take a lot more time, but it's essentially the same thing. So you're going to get your tape. You're going to pull out quite a bit of it. I always like to start with a solid, this is like 6 to 8 inches, and you're going to put it, just literally stick it right on, and you're going to pull tight and wrap. Now if you're doing a butt end for the first time, you're going to go around quite a few times until you get the thickness that you want. I'm going to do this twice, and then very simply you're going to start angling it going down, and you always want to pull out more than you need because it's going to make it easier and you can pull it tight. So you're just going to start angling it down just like that. And if you notice, I am overlapping the last one by about half. At the end, rip. If you don't have the strength to rip, grab yourself a pair of scissors. And now, you just grab it and you smooth it down. I like to bend over the tops. And you have yourself a butt end. Now this comes, as you can imagine, about 7 to 8 inches down the shaft. You make it as big as your hand in the glove is. So this is your grip. That's what we tend to call it, is a grip. So you've got your butt end and your grip, which are at the top of your stick. and that's the only part of the stick you tape that is not the blade. You do hold it again lower, as some of you know, hopefully, and if not, you will learn it. Hold it lower, but you don't tape this spot. Some people might like to figure it out if that's what you like, but I like to keep this because this hand really is just for support. You're not putting too much into it until you go to shoot. So now we're moving on to taping the blade. Now there's a whole bunch of variations and people have a whole bunch of preferences about this, so just find what works for you. I'm going to show you a great beginner's way to tape your stick, and you can take it from there. Some people like to tape just the toe. Some people like to tape from heel to toe completely. Some people like to tape just the middle. Some people will put a thing of tape right along the bottom of the blade first and then tape over it. Tons of variations. Some people wrap the very toe of the stick. I used to do that. I do like that sometimes. But today I'm going to show you just kind of like a basic go-to, and you can go from there based on what you prefer and what your style of game ends up being. So we're going to start just by grabbing our tape, and I like to pull a lot out at a time, so I've got a lot of tape to work with. So I pull out like 6 to 8 inches at any point, and that helps me pull it nice and firmly. So I'm going to start by leaving that much on the other side of the blade, right at almost the heel itself, and sticking it down. And now, if I pull this tight, see how smooth that goes on? Nice and smooth. So pull tight. If it's not tight, you can always undo it. It's very forgiving. So boom. And this is why you see people, they're always turning their sticks when they're taping it so they can see both sides. And you're going to go boom. Okay, now you're going to want to make sure this one overlaps the next. So if you need to adjust so you overlap about halfway, sometimes even a little more. Flip it, pull out more, half. Flip it, pull it tight at this point. Now you should be able to cruise with this at this point. I like to just slide, or just literally roll the tape on the blade so it's nice and tight. As we get closer to the toe, my strokes tend to get straighter so that I end up with a nice, straight looking tape job. And that's about as far as I'll go, right there. And then you just rip it, or once again, if you can't rip it, scissors. Now one step that I see a lot of people like not quite do is to smooth down the tape. So you'll notice some spots have come up a bit like that. So that's going to happen unless you really stick this down. So you can take a puck's the best thing, or you can just take your roll and go in the direction of the tape. So if I go against the direction, it's all going to roll up, right? So that adhesive is going to pull up like that. But if I come down in this direction, I'm smoothing it down. Smooth it down against the bottom of the blade, especially around this toe area. So you've got a little tiny hook. You can just stick that right down. And now if you like stick wax, if stick wax is your thing or you want to try it out, now's the time to put it on. So this is the stick wax I currently have in my bag. I just buy what's on sale. I'm not playing at a high level, so it doesn't really matter. But this is how you put it on. So it comes in like a little deodorant stick. Sometimes it comes in like a little tin, and it's a puck size like this. This is all you do. Thin layer, you just run it a couple times on the bottom of your blade. And this is gonna lessen the friction between your stick and the ice. And then you're gonna scribble all along your blade. You kind of want to go in the direction that that tape is again, so you don't lift it. If you need to push it up, push it up. I need to push mine up. Oh, this stuff's old. My stick doesn't need to be taped too often. And that's the other thing. Tape is you feel comfortable. If it rips, retape it. It's all about preference, stick taping. There's no set way to do it, no set way not to. Before this, I actually had a wrap on here. They sell these like grip pads that they don't touch the blade, they just sit like here. And you can see the outline of it there a bit. And I actually really liked it. I got it on sale, but I haven't found them on sale since, and they're quite expensive. So I'm not paying over like $2 for those things. But I had that on either side. I like trying new things out, seeing how it goes. And then just do the back side, same thing. You want a bit more wax on the toe than the heel because you're using your toe for puck control more often. And just like a thin layer, you don't need to go too crazy on it. And that's it. That's tape stick with the blade and the butt end. And that's all you need. Alright buds, so now you know how to tape a stick. Now you can get your parents to stop taping it for you, your partner, or you know what? If you're really worried about taping your own stick, now you know how. If any of you have any additional tips, tricks, something I missed, anything, put it down below so that people can go and look down below. So if you're still a little lost, if you have questions, leave a comment. I'll do my best to answer, and if I don't answer, somebody else might for me. There's a lot of people with a lot of knowledge out there. Now, this is just the beginning. I know we're like 4 videos in, but we've still only scratched the surface. There's still so much more information that I want to share. So if you would like that information, you might want to hit the subscribe button, because we still have to cover things like equipment washing and maintenance. We still need to cover things like hockey culture and what to expect from your first game. We're still going to talk about positioning. What the heck is a breakout? We're going to talk about terminology. There's so much more to share, and if you don't want to miss a video, hit the notification bell so that you do get that notification every time that I post something new. Thanks for hanging around, buds, and I will catch you later.